Jim here with Prevelo Bikes, and today we're going to show you how to assemble your Bravo 3 or Bravo 4 bike. The first thing that we're going to want to do is pull the bike out of the box and remove all of the packing material. Now the first step of actual assembly is to install the handlebar. So inside of the parts box is a small 4mm Allen key. We're going to use this Allen key to remove the faceplate from the stem and install our handlebar. To go ahead and remove the faceplate. So when I do this, I just unscrew the bolts and let them dangle down in the faceplate. I don't actually take them out bolt by bolt. I just do that because I find it makes it a little bit easier to reinstall the faceplate at the end. And go ahead and lift your handlebar into place. Now just make sure that the brake hose runs clean and smooth around the bike. If it's twisted, you might have to twist the handlebar into a different position to make sure that the brake hose is smooth. Now, we don't really have to worry about the angle or centering the handlebar just yet, but you really want to just get it into the basic position. So just get your center marks into the center of the handlebar. Then when you reinstall the faceplate, make sure that where it says no gap is going to line up with the arrow. So that's going to go on the top right side of the stem. Right side meaning the right side of the bike, so the drive side of the bike. And then take your Allen key and then just go ahead and reinstall the faceplate. So righty-tighty. So when you do this, this stem actually calls for no gap at the top. So it says no gap right on that top right side. What that means is you don't want a gap between the faceplate and the stem body on the top of the stem. There is going to be a gap at the bottom. On most stems, it calls for an even gap on the top and bottom. But since it's calling for no gap, what we want to do is fully tighten those top two bolts before we go any further. We're going to go ahead and drive those bolts all the way in. And since we're doing this, I'm making sure that the handlebar is centered from side to side so I can see my center mark there. And then what I like to do is get the brake lever about 45 degrees from level. And since there's no front wheel in the bike right now, I kind of just put it where I think it needs to be. And you can always go back and adjust that later. So I have the brake lever set at about 45 degrees. Okay. Let's get those top two bolts nice and snug. And then you can move to the bottom bolts. So drive them all the way in. And once everything is tight, I'm just going to move the Allen key to this position so I can get it basically all the way torqued to spec. And when I do this, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is just so that I can evenly distribute the load. And get those last two bolts nice and tight. All right, your handlebar's installed. All right, so now we're ready to install our front wheel. So using the 6mm hex key from our parts box, we're going to unscrew the through axle. So you unscrew this on the non-drive side of the bike, so on the brake side. So it's just going to be lefty-loosey. This through axle for the Manatee fork is a little different than most. There's actually a nut that basically stays in the fork dropout, and then the through axle will slide out of the opposite side. So we're going to grab our front wheel. So the wheel's directional. On the hub, you're going to notice that where a disc brake rotor would mount, so that's going to go on the fork where the brake mount is, so opposite of the chain. And then you'll also notice that the tread on the tire is directional, so that tread should face the same direction as the rear tire. I'm just going to slide our wheel into place. And then the wheel will stay in place, and you can slide your through axle back in. And when you slide it in, so this is Manatee's hex lock. So since this has a shape to it, when you slide it in, you might have to get it in and then rotate it into place. If you just fiddle with it, it'll slide right in. And then grab your 6mm hex key and then just go ahead and start tightening. But usually it just grabs the through axle, but you might have to put a finger on there and kind of push it into place. And start tightening it. You'll feel the through axle pull in, tighten it up, and then just torque it down. Front wheel installed. Okay, so the final step of assembly is to install the pedals. Now, pedals are right and left specific. So these are indicated by basically on a left pedal, or they're opposite threaded. That's just so that as you pedal the bike, pedals will self-tighten, so you don't have to worry about them ever coming off. A left pedal is indicated. This one has a little hash marks on the wrench flats itself. And you'll notice the right pedal doesn't have those little marks. So you kind of have to look closer to see them, but they're there. With the right pedal, you can just grab it and it's righty-tighty and kind of get it threaded into the crank arm. So I like to just get this pedal started. And then since the left pedal is opposite threaded, it's going to be lefty-tighty. I'm going to get this started in. Now what you can do, and this works on all bikes, just grab both pedals at the same time and back pedal the bike. And I'm holding onto the flats where wrench would go. And both pedals are threading themselves in. This is just my trick to get it done a little bit quicker. And then once they're in all the way and ready for a wrench to tighten them up, you can grab the pedal wrench from your parts box. So it's got the biggest wrench flat. And get that on there. And then what I like to do is grab onto the wheel while I have the wrench. And basically you can push, pedals need to be really tight. So this allows you to push against itself. So I'm going to push on the wheel while I grab on the wrench. And because of the way the bike is, it's resting on the wheel. The whole bike's kind of moving around, but it lets you get the pedal nice and tight. So I'm just going to push that while I push the wrench. Get the pedal basically as tight as you can possibly make it. And then I will move this into position. So I like to try to get the crank to where it's about like a 45-degree angle. So while I'm tightening it, I can get a lot of leverage on it. So again, I'm going to push the tire up against it while I tighten the pedal, get it nice and tight, and pedals are installed. All right, so now with the bike fully assembled, you just want to go through the bike and give us quick safety checks. So what I like to do is just grab onto the handlebars, twist back and forth, make sure that you don't notice anything loose or moving around. Make sure the brake operates as it should. And of course, if there's air in the tires. If everything's good, let your little one go for a rip and enjoy. Thanks for watching.